I'm Indy Neidell, and this is Out of the Trenches, where I sit here in the chair of wisdom and answer all your questions about the First World War. Tyler D, from Patreon says, "Dear Indy and the gang." Hey, he's talking to you guys too, okay? Yeah, all right, Tyler D. "I have a question for Out of the Trenches. I am a weather forecaster in my country's military." Okay. "And I would like to know what kind of military weather forecasting was done during the war. With the dawn of military aviation, there must have been some emphasis on meteorology and its effect on flight." Oh, keep up the good work. And again, signed Tyler D. I like he put his name at the beginning and at the end. Meteorology, at the beginning of the 20th century, became more and more a widely accepted field of study. In 1909, the Norwegian scientist Wilhelm Bjerknes described for the first time in great detail how the laws of physics and mechanics were applied to forecasting weather. Although, like all of those new experiments with ideas and technology, especially at that time, it took a while until military experts took those theories into consideration. At the time of the war, Germany became one of the first nations that actually realized the value of extensive weather studies, mostly because of the launch of Zeppelins. They used wireless telegraphy to communicate at first with meteorologists in kite balloons, and then later with aircraft. It became really vital for their long-range travel to northern France and to Great Britain to calculate the weather conditions at the coast and over the Channel. With the increased use of observation balloons, gas attacks, and aircraft, precise weather forecasting became more and more relevant. Military planners, they had to know the weather of the next few days in advance if they wanted to plan a longer offensive. Strong winds would either carry away or prevent gas attacks, would prevent or strengthen smoke screens, flamethrowers. Unexpected fog could hide your troops, but it could hide your enemy's troops as well. And days of rain would prevent you from moving artillery because of the mud, so you really needed to know that in advance if you were going to move things around. Soon, all of the nations relied on weather reports for their military timing. The precise hour, for example, when the sun was rising, was the exact moment that your tanks or your soldiers would be spotted. The British Meteorological Field Service was formed in the summer of 1915 and would later become part of the Royal Air Force. And while meteorological observers could ascend as far as 4,000 feet with the technology of kite balloons in 1914, by 1918 they were able to reach altitudes of 14,000 feet. So although meteorology was still in its infancy, and many calculations of, say, of wind speed or the heights of cloud formations and cloud systems, these were still unknown. But the data gathered during the Great War accelerated the speed of weather forecasting in the following decades. The Ubercluckers from Reddit. Okay. Yep. Okay, Ubercluckers, here's your question. Let's see. Thanks for the show, guys. Thank you, Ubercluckers. Question for Out of the Trenches. Which nation had the best trenches? Oh, well, Great Britain. You know, there was that big wet one between Great Britain and France. I mean, it was impossible to invade by foot. It took forever to fly over with those old-ass planes. And you couldn't get very far even with a tank. And you didn't even need barbed wire. It kind of makes you wonder how long it took them to fill it with water. No, but seriously, the best trench is quite simply the one that is impossible to conquer. It's often said that the German army built the best trenches, in fact that they were the most sophisticated. They were usually made of a complex system of zigzag lines that led to a couple of support and communications trenches. They had concrete bunkers and dugouts and deep underground shelters that protected better against shell fire. But they fought defensively for most of the war, in the West at least. The French, though, relied on their artillery and disregarded reserve trenches, while the British fought with more of a doctrine of aggressive defense, and the Russians often relied on their numerical superiority over trench quality. Eduardo Triode on Facebook writes, Hey guys, I don't remember if you already talked about this in the show, but here it goes. What about war deception? Had any of the fighting armies at least some battalion dedicated to fake attacks, operations, or at least some movements? Were dummy artillery, tanks, or fake airports and aircrafts used? What about sound effects, fake reports, or telegrams? I know this was used a lot in World War II, and I think it was in World War I, since I've seen, for example, fake British Mark IV tanks made of a wooden skeleton covered with canvas. But I'd like to get some further information about this matter. The nature of trench warfare in the Great War limited the ways armies could move and act. Since you had to break through a wide range of defensive lines, you had to normally amass a large amount of troops and artillery in advance to do so. Reconnaissance balloons and, of course, aircraft were sent out regularly to expose those preparations. Now, since you couldn't really hide your resources, you had to at least try to hide your true intentions. Wooden guns were built to trick aerial photography. Raiding groups were sent out to create panic and to act as diversions to the true attacks, and artillery barrages were used to let the enemy reinforce lines that were totally unimportant to the real attack that was coming. Military command did not shy away from sending men unknowingly to their deaths in false attacks just to let the enemy think it was a true attack. They sent out fake telegrams and signals and even let false information intentionally fall into enemy hands. Now, one of the most famous but a bit controversial uses of this in World War I was the haversack ruse, right? During the Sinai campaign in October 1917, the British colonel Richard Meinerzhagen, great name, supposedly created a false backpack of an intelligence officer and let it fall into Ottoman hands. It contained everything from notes on sandwich paper to fake codes and ciphers, fake plans for future strategies of the British forces, even fake letters to a non-existent wife and from a non-existent wife. They even sent out fake patrols to search for the backpack and fake radio communications about the search of the backpack, and the Ottomans totally bought it. And speaking of the Sinai campaign and the Middle Eastern fronts, if you'd like to see our awesome bio of Lawrence of Arabia, you can click right here. Do not forget to subscribe and all of your dreams will come true. You can even send them in to us. The clean ones, the dirty ones, the weird ones, we're good. Right, Flo?
Yes.
All right, see you next time. Just spreading the water around. Okay. All right. Okay, Tyler D. Okay, Hans Bricks. So great to see you, Hans Bricks. I'm sorry, I love him. Yeah, fuck you, Hans Bricks, huh? What do you think of that, Hans Bricks? Now you got some bloopers. I'll do some more Hans Brickses, and you can just clip them all together, like the What's for Lunch. Okay, Hans Bricks. What? Okay, Hans Bricks. Yeah, fuck you, Hans Bricks. You'll get more over time. Maybe looking in different places. Okay.